Volcanic landforms. Volcanoes have created some of Earth's most spectacular landforms. You may be familiar with the perfect cone of Mount Fuji in Japan, and we've already talked about the beautiful islands of Hawaii. Or maybe you're more familiar with the Sunset Crater in Arizona or Mount Rainier in Washington. Volcanic activity also forms the rock of the ocean floor, and sometimes when lava flows, it builds up mountains and plateaus on Earth's surface. Volcanic eruptions create landforms made of lava, ash, and other materials. So let's go over some of these landforms. Now, at some places on Earth's surface, there's thin layers of lava pour out of the vent, and they harden on top of the previous layers. These lava flows build up mountains called shield volcanoes. And these shield volcanoes are gradually built wide with gentle sloping mountainsides. Shield volcanoes usually come from hot spots on the ocean floor, like the Hawaiian Islands. Now, remember, if a volcano's lava has high viscosity and is producing bombs and cinders along with ash, then these materials will build up around the vent in a steep cone-shaped hill or a small mountain called a cinder cone. Mount Fuji in Japan is a classic example of a volcanic cinder cone. Composite volcanoes are tall, cone-shaped mountains in which layers of lava alternate with layers of ash. This happens because sometimes lava flows alternate with explosive eruptions of ash, cinder, and bombs. Examples of composite volcanoes include Mount St. Helens in Washington State. Sometimes lava doesn't erupt, but actually flows out of several long cracks in an area, and the thin, runny lava travels far before cooling and solidifying. When lava flows like this again and again on top of the earlier lava flows, after millions of years, these layers of lava can form high plateaus. So instead of forming mountains, some lava forms lava plateaus, such as the Columbia Plateau, which covers part of the state of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. And sometimes after there has been enormous eruptions, the main vent and the magma chamber beneath the volcano become empty, and the entire volcano becomes a hollow shell. With nothing to support it, the top of the mountain will collapse inward, forming what is called a caldera. A large caldera, like Crater Lake in Oregon, formed about 7,700 years ago when a huge explosive eruption partly emptied the magma chamber of this volcano called Mount Mazama. When the volcano exploded, what was left of the top of the mountain eventually collapsed, and the caldera that formed eventually filled with water from rain and snow. Wizard Island is actually in the middle of Crater Lake, and it's a small cinder cone that formed during a later eruption inside the caldera. Sometimes magma forces its way through cracks in the upper crust, but it doesn't make it to quite the surface. There, magma is going to cool and harden into rock, but over time, you're going to see that forces wear away Earth's surface from erosion, and erosion can be from water, ice, or wind. And this erosion is going to strip away layers above this hardened magma and finally expose it. Features that are formed from magma that haven't made it to the surface include volcanic necks, dikes, sills, batholiths, and dome mountains. Volcanic necks form when magma hardens in the volcano's pipe. The softer rock around the pipe eventually was going to wear away, exposing the hard rock of the volcanic neck. Some volcanic necks have been found to have formed over 30 million years ago. When magma forces itself across rock layers, they harden into what is known as a dike. A dike is different than a sill in that the dike in magma cuts across the rock layers, and a sill is magma that is parallel to rock layers, as seen in this image here. Large rock masses called batholiths form the core of many mountain ranges. These massive rocks formed when large bodies of magma cooled inside the crust. This photograph here shows how a batholith looks when the layers of rock above it have been worn away. Sometimes hardened magma forces through layers of rock to bend upward into a dome shape, and these can create dome mountains. A dome mountain forms when uplift pushes a batholith or a similar body of hardened magma toward the surface. Eventually, the rock above the dome mountain wears away, leaving it exposed. And this process actually formed what is known as the Black Hills in South Dakota. Sometimes volcanoes create geothermal activity. The word geothermal comes from the Greek geo, meaning earth, and therma, meaning heat. With geothermal activity, magma is just a few kilometers beneath Earth's surface and it's heating underground water. There are a variety of geothermal features, but a couple of common ones are hot springs and geysers. Now, a hot spring forms when groundwater is heated by a nearby body of magma or by a very hot rock deep underground. The hot water will rise to the surface and it collects in a natural pool. And sometimes water from hot springs may contain dissolved gases and other substances found deep within the earth. Old Faithful, one of Earth's most famous geysers in Yellowstone National Park, erupts about every 33 to 93 minutes. The reason for this time lapse is because that's how long it takes for pressure to build up again after each eruption. What is happening is that rising hot water and steam become trapped underground in a narrow crack. That pressure builds until the mixture suddenly sprays above the surface as a geyser or a fountain of water and steam that erupts from the ground. It's important to note that water heated by magma causing this geothermal activity also provides an energy source. Towns developed near geothermal activity, such as Iceland, are able to pipe hot water into their homes for warmth. Sometimes geothermal energy is used as a source of electricity because the steam from underground is piped into turbines, and these turbines spin a wheel that turns a generator producing electrical energy. Geothermal energy provides electrical power in Hawaii and New Zealand. All right, it's time to take a break here and show what you know.